Life happens. Sometimes wonderful events happen, like a marriage, the birth of a child, or even a grandchild. But sometimes the unexpected happens, the not so great things, like when my mom was diagnosed with dementia. We knew we had to act quickly while she still had capacity to get the legal documents in place that would guarantee a good future for my mom. So the crucial things that we got into place were powers of attorney for personal care, powers of attorney for property, and update her will. With the rising tide of dementia and other brain-related diseases such as stroke, it's crucial to get these documents done while capacity is still available. At the Alzheimer Society, we're urging everyone to complete an estate plan.
With dementia on the rise, it's staggering that over 70% of Canadians do not have powers of attorney for personal care and property. Over 50% of Canadians do not have a will. Only about 15% of those who do have a will leave a charitable gift in their wills, despite this being an excellent way to save taxes.
Joining me today to discuss the importance of powers of attorney and getting your will done is lawyer Stephen Oppenheim.
Hi, thank you, Colleen. As you know, my law firm has been preparing wills and powers of attorney since 1995. We created our family protection package because we understand that it is a difficult process for some people, and we wanted to make it as simple, cost-effective as possible, but still have people be able to have professional legal advice being given to them, and to help take some of the sting out of it and make it a little bit easier for them to do these documents.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me today, Stephen.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. So, Stephen, what is a power of attorney?
That's a great question, and people get confused. And I think sometimes the word attorney confuses people because they're used to that word being used as a lawyer. And a power of attorney has nothing to do with a lawyer. What it means is you are appointing somebody to make decisions on your behalf, especially to be used in the event that you lose capacity to make those decisions on your own.
So what is capacity? How do we define that?
Capacity is a legal term. The definition varies from province to province, so I can't give you an exact definition. But what it means is basically that you understand the nature and consequences of your decisions. So if you have capacity, it means you understand the nature. If you don't have capacity, you can no longer understand the nature and consequences of your decisions.
Excellent. So if you don't understand the nature of your decision, you don't have capacity.
You're not able to do it.
Okay. So if someone lost capacity, can a family member just step in and take over?
Not automatically, and sometimes family members think that they can do it, and it's not the case. If somebody loses capacity and they don't have the power of attorney document in place, they have to apply to the court to become the guardian of the person or the guardian of property to have the legal authority to make decisions on that person's behalf. It's astonishing, as you mentioned, that so few people put these documents in place. It is 70% of Canadians don't have these documents, and with the documents it's so much easier. And 50% don't have wills. It absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, it is staggering, those statistics.
Scary.
Yeah. Ensuring that my mom's powers of attorney for personal care and property were done while she still had capacity was really crucial for our family. We certainly didn't want to have to go to courts and get a guardianship or adhere to a rigid provincial formula to look after her and to have the boundaries of her care.
That's true. And all it takes are a few simple, easy steps, a few planning tools just to avoid expensive, time-consuming, emotionally exhausting procedures that can easily be avoided. Here are a few key points about powers of attorney. It's a legal document that has technical legal requirements to be valid. It can only be completed by you while you are capable and have capacity to sign legal documents. You can make more than one person to be your attorney. You must choose someone that you trust. A power of attorney for property takes effect immediately unless you have given other instructions. It can include conditions. You should talk to your potential attorney before you name them to make sure that they want to take on these duties and that they know your wishes. A power of attorney ends at death, and your will comes into effect at that time.
Ensuring that my mom's power of attorney for personal care, property, and her wills were done while she still had capacity was crucial for our family, just for our peace of mind and to make sure that everybody was on the same page. So let's continue. Stephen, what's a power of attorney for personal care?
Well, a power of attorney for personal care is a document that allows you to appoint somebody to make personal care decisions. In Ontario, there's always somebody that can make decisions on your behalf in the event that you are unable to under the Healthcare Consent Act. But the person that's set out is in a formula in the law and not the person that you decide. So when you have the document in place, number one, you choose the person. Number two, you have some flexibility to choose more than one person or to choose an alternate in the event that that person's unavailable or can't do it. It allows you to appoint somebody to make decisions about your health care, to give consent to treatment, to determine issues about housing and clothing, anything to do with your personal care. And it's avoiding the court proceeding we talked about earlier.
I see. So what's the difference between a power of attorney for personal care, a living will, advance care directive or plan?
The power of attorney document is a document that appoints the person to have authority to make those decisions on your behalf. If you have specific wishes about the way you want your treatment to go, that's something that's called a living will, or also known as an advance healthcare directive. And what they are basically you go over various scenarios and you set out in a piece of paper what it is how you want your treatment to go, what type of treatment you would like to have. It's typical that people will go over end-of-life scenarios, things like whether they'd like to have life support, whether they'd want to be medicated or they'd want antibiotics in certain situations when they're terminal, awful situations. Nobody wants to think about these things, but there are things that are very important for people to think about. And what's important is it's not just one document, it's not just making the documents, it's a bit of a process. And admittedly, a bit of a complicated and frustrating and scary process for people, but it's necessary. What you need to do, sit down, have that uncomfortable discussion with your family. Talk about, if I had this disease and this symptom, what kind of treatment would I want to have? Because many people will do this and sit down with their loved ones and be shocked and blown away that these were the attitudes that the person had, which might be quite different from their own. And if you don't have that communication, it's impossible to understand what your loved ones really wanted. So it's making the documents and having the discussion in preparation to make those documents is what's the most important part of all of this.
Well, it's all about clarity, right?
Exactly.
And having your wishes known to the person who's going to be fulfilling those wishes on your behalf.
Right, and made while you have the capacity to express it.
That's right. Well, my mom had some specific wishes, and it was a simple wish, but she made sure it was in that document, and it was to be able to have more than once a week shower. She wanted to have a shower every day. And as soon as she got that document done and it was in there, she relaxed, and there were other things, but that was really important to her. And so that peace of mind for her, peace of mind for us, that we knew what her wishes were and what we were going to do around those wishes.
Yes, the whole point is to make it easy for your family, to take away the guilt, to make everybody understand what you want, and to make sure that the process is simple and easy.
So to find out about more about advanced care planning, there's a website, www.advancedcareplanning.ca, that our viewers can look at and get more information.
Benefits of having powers of attorney are: 1, the ability to choose who will make decisions for you rather than a court or rigid provincial formula. 2, it minimizes questions or debate about a person's wishes and intent. 3, provides peace of mind for everyone involved. The consequences of not having powers of attorney are: 1, may result in needing to apply for guardianship, expensive and involved processes. 2, loss of opportunity to influence decisions. 3, may lead to guilt, confusion, and disagreements about what should be done. And your will. It is the legal document that tells us your final wishes. Here are the benefits and consequences. With a will, 1, you prevent questions or debate about your wishes and intent regarding who manages the business of your estate and who is entitled to receive your property. 2, you provide peace of mind for everyone involved. 3, you can save tax if you leave a charitable gift to your favorite charity in your will. Without a will, 1, you are unable to exclude or include beneficiaries. 2, you depend on the law and the government to decide the economic fate of your family and loved ones. You do not have an executor, therefore someone must be appointed to act as an administrator of your estate. This means potential delay, expense, frustration, and even loss.
Once the legalities were out of the way, once we got our power of attorney for personal care, property, and her will updated, it was a big relief to our family. It was a big relief to me, but it was also a big relief to my mom. She didn't have to think about that anymore. She knew all that was taken care of. And so we just got to spend time with each other. And, she's since deteriorated a lot as that disease does progress, quite rapidly. At least in her case it has. But there's also some blessings, because working at the Alzheimer Society of Ontario, they taught me to go with the flow, not to disagree with her, not to say, no, this is how it is. For example, my mom believes that my dad and my brother are still alive. And you could say, well, how is that a blessing? Well, they loved her so much. My dad adored her, and she believes that when she gets something new, that my dad brought that, right? And I always say, well, good for Dad bringing you a new blanket or whatever it is. And she goes, oh yes, because he loves me. He loves me.
I can relate because, unfortunately, I've been through a similar experience with both of my grandparents. Over the course of 20 years, each of my grandparents, my grandfather deteriorated over 10 years, and my grandmother, shortly after my grandfather died, started deteriorating. And so I completely understand how difficult it is on the family. But even back then, my grandfather and grandmother had the foresight to make these documents, and everything for my mother and her sister went very smoothly as far as managing the finances, making the decisions. It's difficult enough time as it is. You don't need the additional difficulties of having difficult financial dealings. And thankfully they had those in place. I actually brought a picture of them. This is during their happy days. I'm not sure what that's from, but it's definitely, probably is. I think it might be my sister's wedding.
She's got a beautiful ball gown on,
Yes.
like a beautiful dress, and your grandfather's in a tux. So it's a celebration. That's lovely.
Yes.
Really nice. And I brought a picture just to show you my mom. And my mom's at the piano, and that's my daughter on her lap. And my mom loved music, still does. And my daughter, who is a baby there, works at the Alzheimer Society of Ontario also. So it's a family affair, and it's really important to us, just like it's important to your family too.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing yours. The other thing I'd like to share with you today is a tool that we've developed at the Alzheimer Society of Ontario, and there's more than one tool. There's a will planning guide, a will planner that you can actually fill out and take to your lawyer, and fact sheets on powers of attorney, what we were discussing today.
That's great. I love the be a superhero idea. I'm a comic book fan. I've read them, I've collected them, I've even created some over the years. And, I like the analogy of a superhero. Being a superhero requires bravery, it requires courage, it requires strength. And, preparing these documents does take courage. and strength and bravery. So I really like that analogy. I think it's great you have this.
Yes, and most people don't realize that the federal government has allowed great tax savings if you include a bequest to the Alzheimer Society in your will. You'll be helping your family by doing your will. You'll be helping people with dementia by leaving a gift in your will. You're just being a superhero, right?
So these free tools are useful to help get you into action to take the steps necessary to make your will.
Absolutely.
And the powers of attorney.
Exactly. And to make sure that when you complete these tools is to go and seek professional advice. This is not a do-it-yourself thing. We have to make sure that you get professional advice. So
I can agree with that.
Right? You're making sure you're doing the right things.
That's right.
So thank you so much for joining me today, Stephen, and sharing your expertise and letting people know that they can be a superhero in their own family's lives.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. My pleasure.